What's up, Melanated family? I want to welcome everybody to a brand new episode of the Melanated Convo podcast. This is your boy Harrison bringing you a new episode for the week. Like I always say, man, if this is your first time tuning into the show, what I do here at the Melanated Convo podcast is we touch on critical topics affecting our neighborhoods. We touch on important topics affecting our parenting, affecting our community, affecting our relationships, everything that has to do with Black society. We try to touch on that here on the show. Sometimes we even have guests on the show. We'll talk to an entertainer or a teacher or a writer, someone who's passionate about what they do, who can add value to the show and basically come on and use their story, use what they've been through as a way to inspire my listeners and different people around the country, right? Also, on the show, what we like to do is, support Black businesses. Now, in my opinion, when it comes to Black society and our elevation as a people, when we look at the details of a lot of the disenfranchisement we've had to go through, a lot of the same issues we still go through today, a lot of these things can be linked to finances. So in my opinion, if we are to come out of this rut that we're in financially, socially as well, but primarily financially, we need to make it a value effort to support Black businesses. Now, what happens sometime is when we are in particular cities, it's difficult to find Black businesses, difficult to locate different products and services that are of quality that people in your community may be offering. So what I like to do is every week on the show, bring you at least two different Black businesses, Black entities that I think deserve our support. Because again, when we look at our economic situation in this country, it's really important that we all begin to have more of a group think mentality. So of course, living in a Western culture, living in our society, there's no way around shopping with people outside of our culture. I mean, it's just 13% of us in the United States. So I get how it can be difficult at times to avoid the Walmarts and just the regular infrastructure that's been set up in America meant to get our money, right? But at the same time, I think if all of us just put forth a valued effort to at least seek out Black businesses, to at least seek out people in our community selling goods and services that we may benefit from, then we will not only improve the lives of these individual companies, but in totality, it'll affect in the entire Black society in a positive way, I think. So that's why I think it's important on the show. We do a business spotlight section where I speak about a couple of businesses I think the family should know about. And on the show, last but not least, something new that we added is we like to talk about news stories, different news stories going on in the news, different things I think Black society should be aware of, just to keep us abreast on what's going on in society. And I'm trying my best to be as contextual as possible, not use too much conjecture or, shrewd opinion, because I think in this day and age with YouTube and social media, everybody is quick to give a news clip or speak on a situation in a manner that may bring their site more news or bring their site more viewers or participate in different forms of trolling, and clickbait to a degree. That's the word I'm looking for. A lot of clickbait type material out here where people aren't using integrity when they report on news stories, or they're not doing their due diligence and finding out the correct information. I think not everybody, a lot of people are focused on just getting the story out first and getting their YouTube subscribers up and different things like that, which there's nothing wrong with that. But at the end of the day, man, we got our babies online as well. We got a young generation that's looking at us. We got a younger generation that's online every day that's consuming a lot of this media. Even older people who are ignorant to the fact can be misled by a lot of what's going on out here. You know what I'm saying? So with all the misinformation in the world, it's important that when we speak to people, we try to be clear. We don't gossip. We don't spread rumors or lies or say anything about people that we wouldn't say in their face. You feel me? So that's how I try to live my life. So on the show, we will talk about a few news stories that I feel are pertinent to our community. And that's pretty much what we do here at the Melanated Convo podcast. Now, what we'll get started on first today is our news stories. I'm sure by now everybody has heard, the tragic news about Laker, soon to be Hall of Famer, Kobe Bryant. Yesterday at about 9:47 a.m. in the morning, I think it is, a 911 call went in to basically let them know that, he was in a helicopter with 8 other people, his daughter Gianna included, but he was in the helicopter with 8 other people. And unfortunately, the helicopter went down, killing everybody inside of the aircraft. Now, after doing a little more research on it, today more information has came out. I don't know how true it is, but it was revealed that the helicopter pilot may not have, or he shouldn't have possibly drove the helicopter based on the weather conditions. It was reported that police helicopters and other federal helicopters in the area chose not to fly that morning based on the conditions. I think this pilot was able to get some type of exemption, or he was able to do something that allowed him to fly the helicopter. And unfortunately, because he couldn't see, I think he was using his vision opposed to the coordinates that possibly could have helped him out. Something along those lines. But ultimately, I think it was a weather condition thing that ultimately brought down the helicopter. Kobe was on his way to his daughter Gianna's basketball game at his Mamba complex. I think he was possibly 17 miles away from the complex when the accident happened. So, I was thinking about it yesterday when it happened, man, because, we just lost Nipsey too. And being a real big hip hop fan and just a follower of his entire movement since he's been out, that was hard to swallow as well. But looking at this situation, when I sit back and think about it, of my lifetime, I can't think of a bigger tragedy involving an athlete since I've been alive, right? So this is a really pivotal moment in American culture. When you look at, from my recollection, when you look at athletes at the top of their game, when you look at athletes who have been at the top of the game, who've been at the top of the sport, whether it be baseball, whether it be basketball, whether it be football, when we look at the all-time greats from these sports, I can't think of another time that a great on this magnitude, let's keep in mind, y'all, Kobe has been considered the first, second, or third best player to play in the NBA for a while now. There's always been a lot of comparisons and arguments about how great this man actually was. And when you look at it, there hasn't been someone of this magnitude who's died in this manner. You feel what I'm saying? I mean, he was still a young man. When you look at him being just 41 years old, that's not old at all when you look at actually living and dying. So the fact that he was a younger man, the fact that he was as great as he was, the fact that it was in such a tragic manner, the fact that his daughter was on the plane with him, in our lifetime, man, I'm not sure, because I've been thinking about it all morning. I'm not sure if I've seen anything this tragic with this big of a figure. So, everybody has been in shock about it. There's been a lot of talk. Everywhere you turn on social media or any type of sports outlet, everybody's speaking about it, rightfully so, because like I'm saying, this, something of this magnitude really hasn't taken place in history that I can remember. You feel me? So all of the attention and all of the analyzing of it today that's been going on, I completely understand that. Of course, we want to send a shout out to his family, his wife, and her 3 kids she still has, his mom, his pops, everyone that he touched. Like, death creates such a somber moment, you know what I'm saying? And for some of us who have experienced death on a high level like this in our personal lives, I've experienced my mother, my father dying, a lot of people close to me. So I completely understand being in a in such a fog and not really understanding how things are going to go next because of your feelings. So I completely empathize with his family. I sympathize with them as well. No one should have to go through this type of tragedy, but you know, I am a firm believer that nothing at this point, like I said, because I've been through so much grief and death in my life myself, with people that have been really substantial to my upbringing and just really pivotal people that were in my childhood. I completely understand how his wife is going to feel and how the family members are going to feel. But I think ultimately, man, with going through all that, I think we all have a predestined date that we gonna die, that we gonna be out of here. I think when things like this happen, many of us try to make sense of it, right? Like, why didn't he fly this day? Why didn't the pilot say something earlier so he could have made some adjustments? Why didn't he drive? Like, all these different things. And how I see it, I don't think it has anything to do with that, family. I think when it's your time to go, it's your time to go, and ain't nothing you can do about that. Whether it's going to be in a helicopter or in a car or some type of sickness, I think we all have a time that we gonna go. And what I've learned to pull from all situations like this is you have to use the time you have as like a valuable tool to get shit done, man. Because when you look at a figure like Kobe Bryant and how much he put into his passion, with how much he put into what he believed in, he lived his purpose, right? And if you look at anything he's been able to do on the sports arena, what he was getting ready to do in the business arena, it's obvious that this man was living his purpose. So Nipsey as well, right? So when you look at people like that who die, they never really die. Now, of course, all of us on a personal level, we have family and we are close to family members, and we grieve for a family member, we keep them alive as well, just like one would a celebrity or whatever, right? But I think ultimately everyone should get to the point where they want to make such a difference in the world that when you pass, you'll be revered, maybe not to this magnitude, but your imprint that you left on the world will be reverberating throughout the country, or reverberating through whatever group of people that you were able to touch, and therefore your message, your impact, everything about you will continue to live on, right? That's one of the biggest things I take from situations like this. Like, you know, none of us know how long we're gonna be here. So while we're here, living your purpose, figuring out what that purpose is, that should be everybody's mission in life, man. Because you don't really have any do-overs, right? You don't really have any do-overs in our time. How we manage our time, I say this a lot, but how we manage our time is really important. That's the only commodity, to my knowledge, that you can't get back, family. So how you spend your time, who you spend your time with, the frequency the type of frequency you spend your time around, all of these things are important, man, in my opinion, to living a fulfilled life. So situations like this should make everybody want to, if you have issues with family members that can be reconciled, we should all attempt to do that. If you can reach out to people who you love, people who you may not have spoken with in a long time. We all know how life be, or how life can get, rather, when we're in such a struggle, such a part of the rat race, trying to raise our families and do what's best for the people around us, that you can get caught up and not be as communicative with people that you don't talk to as much, right? That's why I try to use situations like this personally, because I'm like, even as almost a 40-year-old man, I'm still more of an introvert than anything. Even when it comes to the closest people around me, you not hear from me for months, you know what I'm saying? And that's a flaw, I think, or something that about my personality that I really want to work on. And I think all of us should use opportunities like this to better ourselves, right? Because once you're gone, man, then that's it. And all people have is what you were able to contribute to your family, to the world, or whatever. People not talking about what kind of car you had. People not talking about those one or two mistakes that everybody around you were able to witness. People aren't really focusing on those things. That the type of car you had, the type of house you had, anything materialistic, anything that's not substantial. We have to realize once you're not here no more, nobody give a fuck about none of that shit. So when we here, we need to focus on the things that are substantial, like how much are we affecting change in our community? How much are we affecting change in our families' lives? How much are we trying to be as 100 with the people around us? And all of us fall short of this shit at this time. I'm a prime example of that. But what's your mentality towards it? Like, how do you approach these issues after you fell down a couple times? That's something that Kobe exemplified with how hard he worked, like how much energy and time he put in to what he felt was important to him. And what we've been able to see is, of course, his family and what he was going to do in business. But primarily on the basketball court, we were able to see a different type of animal. And I think that's basically anybody can touch levels like that in their personal lives, in their careers, or whatever they're doing, if they believe in themselves. That's like an ultimate level of believing in yourself and understanding that you live in your purpose. You feel me? So rest in peace to the brother Kobe Bryant, man. It sounds real weird even saying that shit, but we all have to realize that you know how much time you have on this earth. You have no idea. So procrastinating, putting things off till tomorrow, again, that's something I'm dealing with personally that I realize I have to be more diligent about. But procrastinating, putting things off for tomorrow, you never know if you have tomorrow, right? So if you want to be a writer, if you want to be a rapper, if you want to be whatever your dreams are, whatever those big dreams you have that may seem unattainable, or may seem like it's a little too far-fetched based on who you are, that's bullshit, man. You need to realize that you only got one life. So while you're here, why not try to make it the biggest you can? Why not try to live out every goddamn dream you've ever had in your mind? Put together a plan, put together like write some things down, what you want to do, put together a plan, man. Go step by step and start executing that shit, because tomorrow you may not be able to do it. You feel me? So rest in peace to the brother Kobe Bryant, man. Really, really, really great. Seemed like a great man. I wasn't always the biggest Kobe Bryant fan, but I was definitely observer of his talent and how determined he was, and had a lot of respect for the brother. This is a really, really unfortunate incident. So again, prayers up to the Bryant family. Everybody out there, man, do your best to keep his wife and everybody around her in your prayers. Now, for the next news story that I wanted to do today, in all the news stories typically be about incidents that happen in black society, some good, some bad. But I like, I'm a big proponent of the system that we're under. You want to call it white supremacy, you want to call it racism, whatever you want to call it. We are under a system that treats us a particular way because of our skin color. And I think it's important that everybody in our society, regardless of everybody in black society, regardless of how you react to it, regardless of if the information makes you a revolutionary or if it makes you a conspiracy theorist, if the information makes you look at people funny or tend to be a little more, not hateful, but sometimes learning about black history, sometimes learning about things that have happened to us, learning about the incidents that we go through today, sometimes that can turn you kind of sour and make you not like another race of people or something like that. You feel me? And I don't want that to be the case with anybody, but we all have to be knowledgeable about what goes on in these streets. We all have to be honest about where we are in society. So the next story I want to talk about is out of Ball State University. So what happened is a young brother by the name of Sultan Mufasa Benson. I like that name, Sultan. Sultan Mufasa Benson. He walked into one of his classes, right? As he walks into the class, he sees that somebody's in the seat. So the professor tells him to go to a different seat. He goes to a different seat, no problems at all. Begins doing his assignment, starts getting into the lesson, doing his job, learning, doing whatever he was supposed to do. After he got situated, the kid that was sitting in his seat left. The professor told him, the professor, who his name is Shaheen Borna, he's a Caucasian gentleman. he told him, okay, the guy that was sitting in your seat's gone, get up and go back to your seat. Well, at this point, Sultan was already comfortable. He was already, he had his workout and everything. He was already situated in his seat. So he tells him, no, I don't want to go back to my old seat. Simple thing, right? So the professor should have just said, whatever, you can stay in that seat. Well, what ended up happening after they went back and forth, maybe a small argument, right? Maybe having some words with each other. The professor threatens to call the police on him. Before he knows it, the professor goes outside and speaks to the police. Now, so he basically did call the police on the young black student. Now, of course, the police didn't do anything. They didn't arrest him. This was campus police. None of that actually happened. But the main reason why I wanted to mention this story is because we have this thing in our society with certain members of white society where they feel like, because of, and this is my opinion, because of what we've been through in this country with the police departments of the United States of America, and because we have such a strained relationship, everybody's watching what happens to us on the news, when we get shot by the police, when the cops do all this, negative activity that happens with us and the police. White society sees this, and what happens is, what we do when we allow us to get shot, when we allow different things to happen to a black man or woman, and there's no nothing happens to them, they don't go to jail, they don't get reprimanded in any way. I think a lot of people in black society realize that the police is my weapon against y'all black asses. You feel me? So in a lot of instances, I think instead of trying to work with us, instead of trying to just be more human to a degree and figure out a problem, because they understand how the police treat us, because a lot of Caucasian men and women in this country see us as inferior and have like this ingrained hate/fear for us based on nothing substantial, based on nothing that has actually happened in society where we've done things. There's never been a mass like killing of white folks by black people. You know what I'm saying? So there's really no reason to be scared of us like that. But if you listen to Frances Cress Wilson, Dr. Frances Cress Wilson, her book, she really goes deep about a lot of the ingrained fears of white society based on genetic annihilation and all this other shit. That's some other shit, but which everybody should look into. That's Dr. Frances Cress Wilson book, The ISIS Papers, kind of goes into that. But if we look at how we're treated by white society, a lot of the times when we look at the fear, when we look at how we're handled, it's obvious that there's some ingrained issues going on. And another thing I like to tell black folks, it's unfortunate, but when you're a young black man, I would say starting from 12 and up, depending on how big you are, when you interact with authority, whether it be a teacher, a professor, whether it be a cop, you're not really being looked at as a damn child. You 12, 13, 14, but they're looking at you like a grown man. For some reason, your black skin ages you like 10, 12 years, and all of a sudden, you a grown man and should be handled as such. You feel me? So, of course, the professor in this situation has came out and apologized because there's a video of it, a lot of heat on his ass. So of course he's going to apologize. Of course, the Ball State University president came out and said, the professor made a gross mistake or something along those lines. And the point, family, is unfortunately, with being black in America, there is still a large section of society that sees your black skin as a threat, and understand that they have a team of people they can call on your black ass and get you exiled. Whether that be cops, whether that be school police, whether that be regular police, they understand that in a lot of cases, the police is there to solve their problem, whereas they're meant to, their arrival for us sometimes mean it's going to create a problem for us. You feel me? So please, black parents, do yourself a favor and talk to your children about interacting with cops, interacting with white men to a degree. We shouldn't treat anybody differently based on what race they are, but that's why I'm such a big proponent of history, because if you learn how we've been treated, when you learn the details behind a lot of the situations we've had to endure, not just see the headline, but actually study the details behind these situations, you'll see that a lot of the things that we see today is nothing more than history repeating itself. So talk to your kids about interactions with cops. Talk to your kids about interactions with white males in public. That's why I'm really a big advocate of how we raise our children in our home. And now, of course, we have to always I'm not gonna preach to my kids be compliant in every situation, because I think you should stand on what you believe in and be ready for the consequences to a degree, but at the same time you need to be smart about how you move. I mean, in certain instances when police are involved, you're behind enemy lines at that point. That's how I see it. So there's a particular way you should move, but just capitulating in every situation, that's not going to get us out of this rut that we're in. So it's a difficult thing, man. It's a difficult balance that needs to be created. But if you don't talk to your kids about it, if you don't educate them on how some of these things work, you're kind of leaving them out there to dry, in my opinion. You feel me? So that is it for the news stories for today. Now, as far as the black businesses, as far as the topic, I forgot to mention now the topic after I go over the black businesses for today. The topic we're going to touch on is a message to our black fathers. Now, in wake of the brother Kobe Bryant not being here and us being aware of throughout a lot of the negative shit that we've heard about him and a lot of the things that have went on in his life that's been publicized from the outside looking in, he was a dedicated father. Like, he created a great structure in his home that benefited his children, and I think some of us can emulate that. And like I always say, what I'm tying into that is today we're going to talk about young black fatherhood. We're going to talk about a message to young black fathers about how they should conduct themselves, about how they should treat the parenting process when you're young and may not be in a relationship with the woman, or you have a lot of things going on in your head, but at the end of the day, this is a child, and it's an extremely important job. And like we were talking about a little earlier, you don't have the time to actually go back and fix things. So dealing with the economics in our neighborhoods, dealing with the dysfunctions in our neighborhoods, a lot of times all of this gets put into one pot when it comes to our parenting, and it's what we do gets affected by our environment. I mean, there's really no way around that. So today we're going to talk about that message I created to a young black father. We're going to talk about what young black fathers can do to create the best environment possible for their children, right? So before we do that, let's get into the black business. Now, last week, because like I said, I do each business 2 weeks in a row, I spoke about my brother, Mr. Lewis. If you aren't familiar with Mr. Lewis, his first name is spelled M''Ster. Last name is Lewis. If you Google his name, you'll find his music. He's a recording artist here in the Sacramento area that I'm from. A brother I've been able to get close with over the last couple years. I've interviewed him for my platform a few times. We've seen each other at different events. So it's a real good brother who not only has the music, his newest album, Rebuilding the Culture 2, is out now. You can get that on all streaming platforms. Not only does he have the music, but he also has a clothing line called God Mode and Goddess Mode for women. You can find everything that he does at his Facebook page, Mr. Lewis. But like I said, you can Google his name, Mr. Lewis, and you'll be able to see everything that he's doing. So I want everybody to go out there and support the brother. He has a YouTube page with all of his videos. He puts a lot of effort and energy into creating, because he makes conscious hip hop music, which in today's society, of course, there's a lane for it. Of course, we have some, I would say, really famous MCs who have a more conscious undertone. Even though a lot of MCs add knowledge in their music, there's only a few, I would say, that's on a really conscious vibe that are really known to the masses. So when you are doing hip hop music, in my opinion, and you choose the conscious route, in a way, you're making it a little more difficult for yourself. We all understand how our people are. We're typically more inclined to go with entertainment-based rap or street-based rap, you feel me? But Mr., in my opinion, does a really good job with presenting a positive message, and he lives by what he speaks. I mean, he homeschools his kids. He's a vegan, so he raps about that. He really has a positive lifestyle that I think everybody can benefit from. So please do me a favor and go to all streaming platforms, put in Mr. Lewis, listen to his new album, leave the brother some feedback, go to Facebook, buy some of the shirts, look at some of the clothing he has, listen to the music videos, comment on the videos. Sometimes supporting somebody can be buying the clothes, right? Spending your actual money, buying the clothes, the book, whatever they may be offering. Sometimes support can simply be sharing the video. You have social media, use the power of social media, share the video, like the video, leave a comment on the video, let the brother know that you peep out what he's doing and you respect what he's doing. Sometimes when you're a creative, sometimes when you're a creative and you're attempting to put you're attempting to make your mark on the world and embark on maybe a journey that's unfamiliar to you, but it feels good. That can be discouraging at times when you don't see the instant payback for it, right? Whether it be money or otherwise. So sometimes somebody hitting you up saying, hey man, I like what you do. I appreciate your message. Keep on going. Sometimes that's all somebody needs to get to that next level. So go to the brother's page, shoot him a message, let him know you feel what he's doing. Even if it's a critique. If you critique somebody, I don't mind what's the word I'm looking for? Whatever. I don't mind someone critiquing if it comes from a good place, right? If you critique like something I write on my website, if you go to the brother and say, I'm listening to the music, but I would like to hear that, or what's up? I mean, there's a way to tell people that maybe you want to see them improve or there's something else you want to see, but it's all about how you deliver the message. You feel me? It's not what you say, it's how you say it. So leave the brother some honest feedback, some criticism, whatever you may have, so he can improve upon what he's doing. So again, that's Mr. Lewis, M''Ster, Lewis, Lewis. Now, for the next business, is something I found. Actually, I found this by looking at his page. There's a website called theblackdollarstore.com. That's theblackdollarstore.com. Now, on this website, I'm really intrigued by the website. It has a lot of really high quality clothing. Not only does it have clothing on the website for men and women and for children, you can get watches for men, women, and children. You can get different sneakers. There's a lot of sneakers. There's shoes, a lot of different tennis shoes on the website for men and women. Some that I'm looking at here that are really dope, man. They have like athletic running shoes type of shoes, but they're inspired by Huey Newton, inspired by, Black legacy or righteousness, the name Black excellence. You feel me? The names of the shoes have a lot of mantras that are positive in our community. And really, the website has electronics, books, sunglasses, jewelry. Really, this is a website. So when we talk about supporting a Black business, when we talk about not knowing where to go, when we talk about not having a central location to buy certain goods and products that we need, this is one of the best steps forward that I've seen as far as a website is concerned that has clothing and things that we need. So everybody go to theblackdollarstore.com. That's theblackdollarstore.com. Like I said, they have a Black Dollar Friday where they have different sales on Fridays. I think they have 75% off. I'm sorry, not 75% off. Free shipping if you place an order over $75. A lot of really good deals, like the shoes that I'm looking at on here are $50, $60, not really overpriced. I plan on ordering a couple myself in a few weeks. If you subscribe to the newsletter, you get 10% off of your first order. So this is a really, really dope website, everybody. Really intriguing. Tell me what you think about it, man. Go to the blackdollarstore.com. Buy something from the store. Like I said, clothes, books, shoes, accessories. There's like what did I say here? Self-defense. So for women, there's little knives and nunchucks and stun guns, pepper spray, different things like that women can use if a gun license isn't something that you care to have or don't have yet. There are different forms of protection here that women can use, man. So check it out, y'all. The blackdollarstore.com is the website. Free shipping on orders over $75, 10% off if you subscribe to the newsletter. Now, for today's topic, like I was saying a little earlier, when we look at our community, when we look at a lot of the things that we have to approve upon, of course, we spoke about economics, we spoke about finances. Of course, that's a thing in the Black community. When we look at how many times a dollar circulates in other communities opposed to our community, it's really stark contrast. So it's a really big difference, right? So we know finances is a thing, but another thing that I feel we have to work on in our community is the structure of our families, how we start our families, how we raise our children. What is the mentality in the household? What is the maturity level of the individuals raising the kids, right? So this is something that we really have to look at. And me, of course, again, I talk about fatherhood and parenting and things with our children. Just being a Black father of 5 myself, who went through a lot. I put myself through a lot in my quest to be the best father that I can, and still trying to figure out what type of man that I wanted to be at the same time, right? Having 2 kids at 17 years old, these are some of the struggles that I've had to deal with. So I'm all too aware, because I've did things wrong, but don't get me fucked up. I've did some things correct as well. I've never not been there for my children, but it's a process you have to go through, and there's a maturity level that I think we have to get to before we even attempt to have kids, right? So today we're going to talk about my message to a young Black father, different things a young Black father needs to be aware of, different things a young Black father needs to factor in when it comes to putting our all into our children, because we're quick as young parents, we're quick to say, I love my kid, I love my kid, I love my kid. Yeah, but how much do you love yourself? How much have you, because to me, loving your kid and loving yourself is the preparation part as well, right? So those are things we have to factor in. So today we're going to talk about different things young Black fathers need to be aware of. Now, of course, I've spoken about this type of topic on shows prior, where the main objective was, how to prevent becoming a father too young, how to understand the courting process of a woman, how to understand the importance of abstaining from doing the things necessary to abstain from having a kid too early, simply because preparing your life correctly, doing things in your life first, creating a solid relationship with a woman first, is kind of the foundation to creating the best livelihood for your kid, right? But in this situation, what if we have a young Black man who didn't necessarily think about that, like I was, who didn't think about the structure of a family, who didn't value the man-woman paradigm that's necessary, I think, in the home, right? What if you're a young man like that? So what we're going to talk about today is different methods, different ideologies you can use when you find yourself in a situation where you just found out a girl you've been having sex with is pregnant, and you're not working really, you ain't really been on your shit as a man, you're not really structured, you're not really settled in. You feel me? That happens out here in these streets, that happens in our society, and the question becomes, how do you bounce back from that? How do you still be that type of person, but be able to provide the knowledge and the nourishment and the finances that your kid's gonna need to flourish in the world, right? So that's what we're gonna talk about today. So look, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna go over 3 or 4 different things that I think need to be valued in a young man's mentality if he wants to successfully raise a young Black child after starting the process a little too early, in my opinion. And don't get it fucked up. Like, I'm gonna always be an advocate of a teenager not having a child. I don't care what anybody says. I don't think there is one teenager in America, and at this point I'm speaking not even Black, any race of a human, that's capable of fully raising a child to the best that it needs to happen for that particular child, based on their edification as an 18-year-old, based on their mindset as an 18-year-old, based on the growth of the human brain, and most of us, if not all of us, not really being at a mature level that we need to be to at least maybe 25. Some people even older than that. So when we talk about a 18 or a 19-year-old person having a baby, I think, and we always need to clarify, a child is a blessing. Like a new life is definitely a blessing. But what happens when, you know, in my opinion, when we look at and this is just my opinion, when we look at whether a person should have an abortion or have a baby, I look at it like this after being through everything I've been through. Abortion shouldn't be used as a form of child support or as a form of birth control. No. However, I know a lot of people who didn't want to didn't want to maybe do birth control, didn't want to have an abortion, and now I see them completely struggling with the child, fucking the kid up, meaning they're not growing mentally, so they're putting all this negativity into a child, all the unlearned bullshit they haven't rectified in their psyche or in their personal life. All this is being dumped on a child. So when we look at what's the chances of this child being a productive member of society, I think it's a low number. So I think if two people are if two people are young and of the pregnancy comes up, abortion should be considered sometimes because of the likelihood of you not being able to properly take care of the kid. And that's not just with money. Money's going to be a problem too if you're young, but it's a mentality thing. It's a structure that's needed. And if you're not an adult yourself, how can you really teach a kid what to do? How can you really teach a kid what needs to happen in society? Now, does it happen? Do we have people who have teenagers who have kids, and those teenagers turn out to be doctors, lawyers, productive members of society? Hell yeah, that happens all day. But I think what we ignore in society is the high number of irresponsible parents who have children young, which I was one of, and throughout that period of trying to figure out who you are, throughout that period of trying to figure out the best way to approach parenting, you actually do more bad than good as far as how your kid sees the world, how your kid decides to socialize with other people, the financial status that they're in. You see what I'm saying? Sometimes we can breed the negative attributes that we see in people in society when it comes to crime, when it comes to how people treat each other. A lot of times this comes from our household. So if we weren't raised to believe certain things, if we weren't raised under a certain tutelage, if certain things weren't put into place, then you can have a fucking bad apple, man. You can raise a little motherfucker that go out here and terrorize the world. Like, that happens too. I'm not gonna look at everything all rosy like it just ends up perfect. It doesn't. So how we can prevent this, how we can prevent a lot of the things we see in our community. Now, keep in mind, like I always say, I'm aware of racism and white supremacy and how much these things have had a hand in how our families are structured. We can never forget that. The welfare system, how we've been attacked as a black family, that's a fact. However, understand that and understand what your participation is in that process. And that's why I'm always an advocate of knowledge of self. That's why I'm always an advocate of people learning about history, learning about what we've been through in history, so you can formulate the proper perspective when you look at where you at in life. When you look at the situation that you've been in with your single mom, or you now having a baby and not being with the woman, whatever the situation is, knowledge of self can help you with that perspective. So, like I said, what we're going to do is go over a few things I think young dudes need to look at when you are a young father in our community. Now, first thing I would say, if you are a young father in our community, and, you know, like I was just mentioning, knowledge of self is important. So that's always going to be the caveat to anything I talk about as far as what a person needs to do in our community or what they need to do to improve certain standings. I think understanding who you are, where we come from, first step, right? But after that, I think one of the first things a young man needs to do, the girl's pregnant, she's having a baby, you're going to be a father, that's already set in stone. The first thing you need to determine is, what type of relationship are you going to have with the mother? Like, once you have a kid with a woman, that's probably the most important time to of understanding and learning how to handle a woman's emotions, because it's not just a woman that you're fucking now. It's not just a woman that you're kicking it with. Once there's a baby in the situation, I think emotions are heightened. What's expected is heightened. Everything is put on a different level, right? So you need to figure out what type of relationship are you going to have with the mother. Now, in my opinion, a young person should be looking at, okay, what's the likelihood of me working it out with this woman? What's the likelihood of me actually putting myself in a situation where I'm in a relationship with her, where we're raising this kid in a stable environment? Now, if you're really young, right, you may not be ready to settle down with a woman or be in a relationship, but to a degree, that's something you should have thought about before you had the baby. So I would say look really hard at the woman, your relationship with her, and determine, is this something you can build on? Now, I don't think you should be with somebody just because you have a kid, because that environment, that can create like a toxic environment that can make it even worse, where you're really not in a loving relationship, in a that's conducive to something long term. And I think kids can see that too. So I'm not saying just stay with somebody because you have a baby with them, but you really should look long and hard look at yourself and where you are in life as a man. Like I said, maybe you're not ready to settle down. If so, that's something you need to verbalize, like understanding, I'll go back to that, but understanding the importance of like a 2-parent home, like that structure for a kid. I don't think a kid should be raised any other way. Now, of course, shit happens. I get that. But if we're looking at, if we find ourselves in a situation where we have a baby, where maybe we weren't thinking about that before, it's not too late to kind of think long and hard about what you want to do. Think long and hard about, do you want this woman to be your mate? You can, and again, it's all about communicating and being honest, because you can tell her, hey, maybe not right now, I'm not interested in being in a relationship. Maybe we can work on that. Maybe we can, you can figure out a way through communication to do that right. But if you lie to her, if you start, if you start being disrespectful and lying and not being of your word and things of that nature, you can create a real toxic environment for everybody involved, right? So that would be the first thing. Try to work out the situation with the mom. 2-parent homes are needed. 2 heads are always better than one. Man, when we look at America and how hard it is in society, like how much shit costs, how expensive it is, of course you can raise a kid on your own. Of course you can do the shit by yourself, but it's going to be 10 times harder in certain instances. And now you need like this support system that doesn't involve a man. So you have your mom, you have your auntie, you have all these people. And of course, when shit happens, it happens and you're doing whatever you think you need to do. But at the same time, we need to be more cognizant about how we can prevent these things, right? So you find out she's pregnant, 2-parent home. Try your best to create that situation. Because again, when that's not the case, then other family members need to be involved in more than I think they should. The structure of everything gets kind of fucked up when it's 2 homes that a kid has to go to instead of 1. But at the end of the day, if you determine that you're not going to be in a relationship with her, she's not the woman for you, whatever the case may be, then you have to go on a mission pretty much to create as much structure as possible. Because even though you're not in a relationship with the woman, or just because you're not in the same home doesn't mean you can't have a cohesive type of unit that still provides the kid a lot of love and support. Like that's that can definitely still happen. But in any situation, if you're with her, you have to try to create a structured environment, meaning your own spot, like 2 people living with their mom and you have a kid. Like I'm highly against that, unless you're saving for a house, unless you're saving for an apartment. I get that, like somewhere to crash while you're getting on your feet. Everybody needs that kind of help at times. But this is something we need to think about when we have kids, man. If you have a child, you shouldn't be living at home no more. You are an adult now. That's you're kind of catapulting yourself to adulthood in a way. And just to touch on something else real quick, I think that's what happens in society a little too much. Sometimes you'll have young people who have kids, and mentally they think they're an adult simply because they had a kid, but nothing about their actions is showing that they're an adult. They don't have their own shit. They don't have to pay their own shit. So it's kind of a warped psyche to a degree where you think you grown in a motherfucker, but you actually ain't carrying no weight. You actually a kid, just like your kid living with your mama. So it's like your mama got another kid herself. You feel me? So we need to realize that can come into play at times, and we need to keep our kids realistic. If you have a kid that's young and they end up having a kid, you got to let them know, man, you've decided to be an adult. I want to help you. But I'm learning, like, with children, of course, you got to look at how you raise them and what you put into them before you make decisions. But tough love helps. Like, tough love is important. We teach our kids about being preventive in sex and how they should live their lives and all this different shit. But if they decide to escalate that and be adults, sometimes you got to let them know, okay, you an adult now. Now you got to start doing adult shit. You got to move out on your own. You got to, I think, sometimes in our community, for whatever reason, the grandma factor gets blurred. Like, in my opinion, a grandma supposed to be somebody, a grandpa and a grandma supposed to be somebody, you drop the kids off at grandma's house, stay there for a few hours, go get them, go back and get them when you go into work, or grandma come get them for a few hours, bring them, get ice cream or some shit like that. A grandma shouldn't be the primary care physician. I mean, not physician. The grandma shouldn't be the primary caretaker of the kid. It shouldn't be the person the kid lives with. Even if you're a man or a woman with a kid living with your mom, even though you may have an understanding at times, that's not the natural course of things if we're adults. Let's be honest. Most of us want our own spot with our own shit. That's what everybody wants. When you don't get that, what you tell yourself, why that's not happening or whatever, that shit's on you. But that's not how it's supposed to work. I don't care what nobody say. You have a kid, you have a woman, y'all in a house together. If you're living with somebody, for the most, again, if you're getting some shit together at the moment and you on your job, that's always okay. People fall all the time where they need help. They got to get back on their feet. That's how America, I get that. Your family should be there for you. But if it ain't about you falling, if it's about you not excelling at getting shit done yourself, i.e. graduating from school, i.e. getting a job, being self-sufficient, but you chose to have a child, now you're creating a burden for the people around you based on the empathy they have for you, based on the love they have for you, based on the fact that this is a new child that's been created. So to me, the balance of your relationships with certain people will get skewed a little bit based on your lack of responsibility and accountability. You feel me? So that's why I'll get back to my point. You need to create structure. So if you're not with the woman and you decided you're not gonna be with her, cool, you gotta create a structured environment where you can get your kid without the woman, because that's something I had to realize. If you're not in a relationship with her, meaning y'all together, when y'all together, she doing some of the nourishing, she's nurturing, she's doing the nurturing, the natural course of thing is happening when there's a yin and the yang in the house. When there's a dominant, when there's a male energy, there's a female energy in the house. I think things naturally fall into place. When that's not the case, fathers, you have to take it upon yourself to create the structure in your own life. If you decide not to live with the woman, if you decide y'all not gonna be in a relationship, you can't be on the run all the time no more. You have to have a stable environment where you bring your child to where it's comfortable for your child, and this has to be a routine. However many days a week, every other week, whatever your formula is, you need to put that together and create that structure, and so it can be that way for your child's whole life. I think some young men at times, the baby comes, but they don't slow down. They're still kind of a rolling stone to a degree. They're from here and there and not really structured or settled anywhere, which is sometimes typical of a young person. But if you have a kid, there has to be some mentality there has to be a mentality switch, because in society I've seen young men think, because I have a kid, I'm a change, because I have a kid, I am going to just immediately become this responsible fucking adult. And that's not how it happens. You are who you are. Your evolution is based on your personal want to evolve. Sometimes a kid can push a young person to maturing quicker and understanding the responsibility and the gravity of what they've got themselves into. That happens, but that doesn't happen to everybody. Some young people keep being exactly who they are, and the kids suffer because of it, right? So the first thing you need to do is create some structure outside of your mom's house. If you're a young person, newsflash, if you're a young person and you've never moved out of your mom's house, you're not an adult yet. You're not fully an adult yet, unless you're paying half the bills. You paying half the bills, now you're on some roommate shit, my bad. That's a little bit different. But if you're living with somebody, they paying the rent, you're not paying nothing. Again, having a baby does not make you a fucking adult. That does not make you an adult. Being able to take care of yourself, to me, is the working definition of adult. Can you take care of yourself? Can you pay your own bills? Can you do what you need to do for yourself? Do you have that capability in you? You feel me? If someone else is still paying all your bills, I don't care how many kids you got, newsflash, you're not an adult yet. So once you have that baby, it's important that you get a permanent form of income. I know a lot of young men in our communities who choose the streets to get their income, and I think as impoverished as our communities have been, all of the issues we've had to go through, I'm not one to tell a young person how they should or should get money. I'm not this big, capitalism and Western culture. I can give a fuck about a lot of this shit to a degree, you feel me? But there are consequences when you live on the other side of the law. And anybody in the street will tell you it's not a longevity. It's not a lot of longevity in that business either. So, for the most part, you should be looking at working, starting a business, something on the positive end of things. And, a lot of young people see that as being quote unquote square shit. But ultimately, any OG, any smart man wants to get to square status, where you live a stable lifestyle, not based on no illegal shit, not based on no fuck shit. You feel me? So you got to create structure and get a permanent source of income so you can pay child support. You can work it out where you don't pay child support, where you just give money, whatever the case may be. But finances are important, even though I'm a big proponent of the phrase kids spell love T-I-M-E. I do think kids need to be around you. They need to be in your presence. That you need to spend as much time with them as possible. I think that's the key component to a relationship with a child. But let's not lose out. Let's not lose out on the fact that money is important and your finances will be needed, right? So you got to get some form of a solid financial foundation so you can get them on a consistent basis, so you can give money on a consistent basis. All those things are important, right? Now, also, a couple more things I want to touch on. It's also important that you understand that the woman, I touched on this a few seconds ago, but it's important that I reiterate, getting the relationship with the woman settled, meaning, and getting like a clear understanding, meaning if you're not going to be in a relationship with the mother of your kids, I don't recommend having sex with her. I don't recommend fucking with her at all like that, because that's going to cause a lot of confusion. No woman that has a kid with somebody doesn't want to be in a relationship with that person if they're still having sex with them. Now, if a woman tells you, okay, no, I'm cool, and she moves on, that's different. But I think in most cases, young women, when they have a baby with a young dude, they're still under the illusion that they're going to be in a relationship and they're going to be a family. Women are kind of built that way to kind of, formulate that type of idea in their mindset, opposed to men who tend to be a little more elusive and rip and run a little more. But a woman's going to want that. So if you have sex with the mother of your child and you guys aren't in a relationship anymore, you're going to cause confusion. So because of that, if you end up not fulfilling your relationship end of the bargain per her expectations, you can end up being in a situation where your child is being used as leverage. You feel me? Because a lot of times I think when we're dealing with young men need to realize physically we're stronger than women, right? So a woman can't just come up and whoop your ass. You know what I'm saying? She can't just find out you doing something she don't like and come to your house and fuck you up. Typically, she has to use her wit. I mean, she has to use her mind. She has to use whatever she can. And sometimes that's using your child as a pawn and say, okay, you don't want to do what I want you to do, then you're not going to see your baby. Now, does that happen when a man doesn't play with a woman's emotions at all, where he just doesn't do what she thinks he should do and she then uses the child as a pawn in return? Yes, that happens. But sometimes, as men, we bring that shit on ourselves by our actions, by not being of our word, by not being truthful. You can bring these type of emotions out of a woman. So of course, if you fucking with a crazy female who just got it out for you and you got a baby with her, now she putting you through hell, I mean, shit, that's still your fault too because you fucked her. But at the end of the day, if we are to be men about the situation, you have to realize what you're doing and realize your input into whatever toxic situation you've created when it comes to dealing with that woman. You feel me? Okay, now, another thing, last thing I want to touch on, right? I think being a father that was in a situation where, you know, there was a time where I got my kids every week. There was a time where I got them every other week, you know what I'm saying? And as I've gotten a little bit older, I'm convinced that the best way to be as effective as possible with a child's development, with a child's understanding of the world that they live in, all these different things, you have to be in the home with your child. Now, of course, we mentioned earlier, what if it doesn't work out with the mom? I get that. But in my opinion, every father who doesn't live with their child should be seeking joint custody. You should be seeking to have your kid in your home 50% of the time, half the time that she does. Now, of course, like we just mentioned, this is going to take some level of responsibility. This is going to take you preparing yourself income-wise so you can have the stability necessary to facilitate something like this. But ultimately, a kid needs to be around you as much as possible. Now, again, we're always factor in that you're in the right state of mind mentally, that you're in a position where you're moving forward and doing things based out of logic, and you're not addicted to any drug or anything that would negatively affect your ability to be in your child's presence on a consistent basis. Because if that's your case, then maybe you shouldn't get joint custody. Maybe there should be some type of help that you get yourself or something. You know, we all want our fathers, we all want fathers to be around children, but if he's not healthy mentally or if he's destructive, some of that may affect the child in a negative way. You feel me? So if you're not right, then you need to get yourself right first. But if you are right mentally, if you are putting yourself in a position to be as productive you can in society, get joint custody of your sons, man. Daughters, get joint custody of your kid so they can be in your environment. I'm under the understanding that there's nothing like your kid being in your living space. It's important that a child is in your living space because you can tell them about what you like and how you are and all that, but they're not going to learn that fully until they're around you in your normal living space where you're not out nowhere or nothing, just where you live, how you conduct yourself in the house. In my opinion, this is one of the only ways that you and your child can really form a bond that's unbreakable. Of course, it can happen other ways, but as fathers, we should want to be in the home with our kids as much as possible. And once we've realized, okay, we're not going to be in a relationship with this woman where we live in the home with her and the kid, I think the next best thing is you getting joint custody and being able to take care of your kid that way, right? So this has been, damn, this rock star. So this has been my message to young black fathers, all the young black fathers out there who find themselves in a situation where they have a young kid. If you're a mother, if you're an older person who know a young person who has a girl pregnant now, or they got a 1 or 2 year old and they're a teenager, let them listen to this. I know a lot of young people may not listen to podcasts or different types of audio, but allow them to listen to this yourself and get some of this information and give it to the young person. Because when we look at our society, when we look at black society, the future of our society are the young people. And it's important that the young people learn the proper way to conduct themselves, the proper way to approach different situations, especially the young people who may not have had a father in their life, the young people who may not have had any type of male guidance. It's important that we give them a real game about the longevity of relationships, not like some slick shit that's gonna help them right now, but things that is gonna help sustain the relationship with their kids on a long-term basis. And again, when I speak, I'm speaking from firsthand knowledge of doing things the wrong way and then trying my best to do things the right way and seeing the results from both attempts, right? So it's important that all of our young men realize what it means to be a father and understand that just because you have a baby don't make you a man. What you do after that makes you a man. What you put into that child makes you a man. You feel me? So this has been another episode of the Melanated Convo podcast, man. I want to thank everybody for tuning in to a new show, for tuning in to a new show today. Of course, like I mentioned earlier, we had the somber news of the brother Kobe Bryant passing away yesterday, which is extremely tragic. But we need to figure out a way to love the people around us, man, to live life to the fullest, like on some real shit, not on some party, drug taking, live it to the fullest, but really living it to the fullest, doing as much as you can to travel, doing as much as you can to affect change in your community, however you see fit, doing whatever you can to affect the lives of the people around you in a positive manner. It's really the best thing to kind of take from these tragic events, right? Also, I wanted to remind everybody that next month, February, we are having our Black History Month celebration at Thompson Rose Chapel Funeral Home on 5th Avenue in Oak Park. I'm happy to present the events that we're going to have on the 15th. February, we're going to have a screening of the critically acclaimed documentary Hidden Colors 1. That'll be at 4 p.m. on the 15th. That's a Saturday. That's 2/15. 2020 at 4 p.m. I want to see everybody in the community, in the place, anybody who hasn't seen that movie. If you have a friend, because a lot of people in our community has seen the movie, which is a great thing. So please come watch it again and chill with us. Or if you have a friend or a family member who has never seen Hidden Colors, they have to see this documentary, family. And Black History Month is the best time to view some shit like this. So please bring them down on the 15th. Go to my Instagram page, Melanated Fathers 100 at Melanated Fathers 100 on Instagram. You can see the flyers there. All the information will be on the flyer. On the 22nd, the following Saturday, we are going to have a screening of the movie Hidden Colors 5, which is the another movie in that same series. This movie focuses on and examines how war has been waged on our community in different facets. So the speakers on the documentary break down these different things and what we should be on the lookout for, and more importantly, what the solution should be to combat this type of activity. Also, I'm really excited about after the movie is shown. The movie starts at 2 p.m. After the movie is shown at 5 p.m., there is going to be a panel discussion. There's going to be a panel discussion where I have a group of gentlemen. I have a group of gentlemen that is going to speak about the solutions, like realistic solutions for the Black community in 2020. We're going to talk about how do we combat the war that's been waged on us after we watch the film and kind of see how it documents those things. We'll discuss how do we combat the war that's been waged on us. Of course, I'll be on the panel. My brother, Mr. Lewis, who I was just speaking about, he'll be on the panel. My brother, Chris Lodgson will be on the panel, who is the creator of Sacramento. He has a business network where he lists all of the business in Sacramento where you can go and find anything from, from a plumber to an insurance salesman. It's like a lot of different professions of Black business. So he puts that together, and the brother puts a lot of effort into that. He's also, I think he's the director of the Sacramento branch of ADOS, which is a group that is designed to seek reparations for black folks, basically. So he heads that. He does a lot of work here in the Sacramento area as far as city council meetings and a lot of the politics that go on in Sacramento. He's well versed in a lot of these things, so I'm really excited to have the brother on the panel. I also have Aurelius the Saint, which is the brother I just met through Mr. Lewis, but he, I've seen a couple of his videos and was able to speak to him briefly. He's going to drop a lot of hot fire about our history, about a lot of the things we've been through, about the solutions he think we should touch on. So real powerful speaker, and I think his message will be beneficial to everybody in attendance. And last but not least, I got my brother Keon Johnson, who is a activist here in the Sacramento area that goes out of his way to, be a part of a lot of the activism, the marching, the revolutionary acts that happen in Sacramento. If something like that is happening in the Sacramento area, more likely Keon's there, right? When it comes to the Stephon Clark incident and how all that transpired, he was on the front line there as well. So got a lot of respect for Keon. I've been able to interview him on the platform and talk to him about his ideology and how he views revolution. So having him on the panel is going to be really beneficial to everybody in attendance as well. So that will be our events in February. I'll continue to post the flyers about it. Oh, last but not least, where is it? Here, hold on one second, family. Last but not least, on the 29th of February, we'll be screening a documentary called The Secrets of Black Financial Intelligence, Lessons I Learned from My Grandmother. This is a Dr. Boyce Watkins film. Dr. Boyce Watkins is a PhD in finance, and he has a lot of different degrees in education, where he's centered his life around helping black folks, allowing us to see economics in a different way, the importance of black businesses. He has like a black business school and different things like that. So Boyce is an advocate of black society and how we should conduct ourselves. So I'm really proud to be able to show that movie. That movie will start at 4 p.m. After the movie, there will be a financial workshop that starts at 5 p.m. Now, the financial workshop will have a gentleman in attendance. Jansen Brooks will be in attendance. He's a gentleman who is a life insurance salesman. So he's going to talk to the community about life insurance, about 401k, about different ways to invest your funds or different ways to get started off with life insurance where, it really isn't expensive as you think it is. So that brother will be in attendance talking about life insurance. We'll have another brother in attendance. Who will talk about the home buying process. Justin. Let me find Justin's last name while I talk to you guys here. But Justin will be in attendance, and he's going to talk to the family about life insurance. He's going to talk to the family about 401k, different things like that. He's going to talk to the family about how to get your credit right. Justin Edwards is the brother's name, but he's going to talk to the family about those things. So yeah, man, we want to just come at the community in a real honest and sincere manner about the things that we need to prove upon. So if you're in the Sacramento area next month, please, if you can't come to all of the events or all of the different dates, please try to make it to one of them just to support. If you know somebody that does not have life insurance, please have them come down. It'll be a great opportunity to get information about the different forms of life insurance, what may be more beneficial to them based on their age, based on their lifestyle. Justin will be able to answer questions about purchasing your first home and how that process may work. So please, if you're in the Sacramento area one of those 3 days, please come down and check out what we're going to be doing. Like I said, it's going to be at the funeral home, Thompson Rose Chapel Funeral Home, 3601 5th Avenue, 95817 in Sacramento, California. So like I said, man, this has been another episode of the Melanated Convo podcast. I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in, man. I had another good time, another good episode. I really appreciate being able to come to the family, man, and just express how I feel about shit. I love social media, and I love how a lot of my people interact on social media, but I'm not big on typing and, posting a lot. It's just not my personality, but I do have feelings about different things that go on. So this is how I choose to kind of vent my frustration, to kind of let people in my community, let them in on my ideology just a little bit and how I think about things and how I think we can improve things as our community using my experiences as a father, as a black man in this country, to improve our community one father at a time. You feel me? So this has been another episode of the Melanated Convo podcast, man. Check out the podcast on YouTube, Melanated Fathers TV on YouTube. You can find it on Apple Podcasts. You can find it on Spotify. You can find it on Anchor FM. I always post the episodes on the website as well, which is melanatedfathers.com. If you don't know, if you haven't been to the website in a while, go to the website. Check out a lot of the shit we do with history, a lot of the articles we write about parenting, the book of the month, different things like that are always highlighted on the website. This has been another episode of Melanated Convo podcast, family. I'm out.